Hey, congratulations. You've got your technician class license in hand along with your new ham radio. Now comes the most daunting part of all, hitting that button on your radio for the first time. Mic Fright is real, and I've even experienced it. But let me share with you some tips and tricks and a process that will help alleviate any fears and make that first contact a positive one. So if this sounds of interest to you, then let's get started. Hey, this is MJ, new call sign KW3KW, and welcome to another episode of Ham Radio Made Simple. Today's video, I'm going to get into making your first ham radio call. Many people have mic fright or don't exactly know what to do. You passed your test, you got your equipment, but how do you make a call? How do you talk on a net? How do you do a CQ call? I'll get into all of that. And by showing you all of this, it'll actually take away the fear and the fear of the unknown, and you'll actually know what to expect and how to operate properly. And again, since most of us just start out with our technician class license, this is focused on the UHF, VHF bands. So if you like the video, please hit the like button as well as the subscribe. This is a way for others like you to stumble across this video a little sooner and a little easier. That's all this is about. So thank you for your help in doing that. I appreciate that. So today I'm going to go over mic fright. Is it real? Several approaches you can make to do your first call. There's just not one way to do it. I'm going to show you all the different options you have, and they're quite different. I'm going to talk about nets, and this is where you're going to spend a lot of your time wanting to practice and talk to people, is to get on the local nets, and I'll explain more about that, what that is. CQ, is that something that's used in the UHF, VHF bands? Maybe. I'll discuss more about that. Let's talk about the summary at the end of how I'm going to wrap all of this up so that when you're done with this video, you know what to say, what to do, and we'll go into your first couple calls with total confidence and be able to hit that push-to-talk button pretty quickly as opposed to with me spending 2 to 3 weeks fighting it. So, mic fright, yes, except that most everyone battles this, especially in ham radio. What makes it unique about ham radio is the fact is that you don't know what you're doing. I'm a public speaker, most of my career. I've done board meetings, executive meetings. I've done major presentations to a large group of people. I'm telling you, hit that push-to-talk button the first time was difficult because I didn't know what I was doing. I'm going to eliminate that fear because I'm going to show you what to do and how it operates, and it should make it so much easier for you. I wish someone told me this when I first started. So I want you to make sure that you're not looking for the perfect call. You're going to look for good because perfect is the enemy of good. You don't need to be perfect. You'll probably never be perfect. After a couple of these calls, it's going to get easier, guaranteed. And listen, I still mess up now and then. Even doing these videos, there's words I mispronounce and stuff. Who cares? You know what? I'm doing my best. Do you care? Probably not. So my biggest enemy is myself, my own expectations. I'm learning to just let that go, like you're going to have to do. Let it go and just do your best, and that's good enough. The ideal approach is that you have another hammer to test and practice with. Perhaps it could be, a friend, a relative who already is a ham radio operator, got you into it, or you know of somebody, reach out to them, tell them, hey, I need to learn how to do this, and they can walk you through a lot of this. So best way of doing it, but not all of us have access to people like that. So there are a lot of others like you waiting for help. So how do you find someone if you don't have a friend or like a mentor to help you start it out? Well, leverage the classes. If you took a class on ham radio and you met some of the people, those are the people you're going to want to make contacts with. Or if you're taking your test, make sure before you leave the testing that you reach out to other people who got their technician's class license and say, listen, I've got my equipment. Have you got yours? Do you want to practice together? Share contact information. Great way to do it. Now, what I ended up doing is I tried to get into a net. In order to get to a net, I had to find a ham radio club near me. So I'm going to walk you through all of this, how you find it and how you participate in a net, a weekly net. So one of the clubs I belong to is the Franklin County Amateur Radio Club. And I found out from joining 2 different clubs, these people that belong in these clubs are anxiously looking for newbies. It totally blew my conception of what I thought of what this group would be. I thought it'd be a bunch of people not wanting to welcome anybody else in, and they had their friends, and that was it. Well, within that group, there are people like that, but there's a certain core of people out there that really want to expand the club and be able to help others and use the information that they have in order for others to benefit from it. So believe me, there are people within these clubs that are more than willing to bend over backwards to help you. Most of these clubs are going to have some kind of internet form, for email. This is where you can post a request, which I've done in the beginning a lot, and I got some great advice and great insight. So I strongly recommend doing that. And again, up front, let them know you're new, because they may not know it. There's so many call signs that come and go, but let them know that you are new right up front, and then they're going to say, okay, I can spend my time to help this person. Tests have shown that when you let someone help you, they will become your friend much faster than if you had helped them. So understand, when you're asking for help, you're not imposing. What you're actually doing is allowing someone to exercise the gift and the knowledge that they have and be able to, in turn, give it to somebody else, which is exactly what most of us in the ham radio community want to do. And so they'll also take you under their wings. They can be your go-to person when you have questions going forward. Now, when we talk about these weekly nets, they happen at a particular night, at a particular time. And how you find out these are, in these next few slides, I'll actually break it down more. But the ARRL, or it could show you where these weekly nets are, or they can point you to the ham radio clubs and their websites, and so you can look at their websites too. So there's multiple ways you can address this to find these weekly nets. So you need to have the ARRL website, and I have the specific link to search for this in the description below. And this is where you want to get to the club's homepage and find out a ton of information, and so you know when, where, and what the repeaters are and how to program the repeaters. So, for example, on the Franklin County Amateur Radio Club, on their pages, they come right out. They give their call sign, which you see right in here. This is the club's call sign, AA4RV. On the 2-meter repeater, it's 147.315, positive offsets, 88.5 tone. This is all you need to program your radio. I'll show you where within their website talks about the nets. Typically, a net meeting is 30 minutes to an hour, and it's all about having a rag chew. So people are going to check in, and then when it's their turn, they get to have a rag chew. Rag chew essentially is your time to talk anywhere from 0 seconds, 2 seconds, whatever, minimal that you want, up to about 90 seconds. It can be anything about what you're doing in ham radio, what's going on with your family, are you taking a vacation, what's going on with work, what's going on with your farm. I mean, I've heard it all, your health. It's an open forum to talk about what's important to you. Some nets will actually also ask a particular question. For example, what's your favorite ice cream? Or what was the furthest call that you made in ham radio? What's the greatest distance that you've done? So it could be all different things that are out there. This is a great place to practice your skills and to meet people and to build a network around you to be able to use your ham radio on a regular basis. So how do you find these ones that are near you? Look at the link in the description below. It's going to pull this up. What you want to do is just fill in these two fields. You want to do the zip code and the distance. That's all you want. Don't do anything else, otherwise you'll get a blank screen when you hit the search. Now, it's going to pull up, based on this, an example of these are some of the different clubs that meet that criteria. If you look down, you can see links. Check the web link for more information. This is going to take you to a club website. Also, you can just find a listing of all of the nets that are out there. But I like going through the club part because I like to know more about the club and what is their focus, what is their intent, what is their interest. You learn a lot from their websites, their Facebook pages. So here is the link. You'll find it in the description below. So if I pull up the one that I use, for example, again, it's the same one, but I scroll down to page 2, you're going to find the Franklin County Amateur Radio Club. Here is the links. So you just hit the club link, it pulls up. I learn everything I want to know about them off of their webpage. It's on Facebook. And if you scroll down in, you're going to find the club net info. So Wednesday nights, 8 o'clock on the repeater, 147.315. And if you go back to the screen earlier, it showed what the 2-meter programming was for your radio. Again, very typical what you're going to find out there. So before you jump in, I strongly suggest that you just listen to the first time around when you're listening to one of these nets. And these nets are typically done by clubs that own or share or have access to a particular repeater. So get a feel for the flow and the process. A lot of them are very similar, but some of them are a little bit different. Practice writing down call signs. This is going to be a big challenge and a big learning curve now that you got your license, because people will talk fast, if you haven't noticed yet, someone like me. And they may say, KO4PYT. Did you get that call sign? That's what you're going to get. They don't do it slow, and phonetically is even better. So, but practice writing them down. You're going to get frustrated because you can't always get it, but this is where you need to do it. I've gotten to the point where I probably improved 60, 70% since I first started. Still got a ways to go. Make sure you know the NATO phonetic alphabet. The NATO phonetic alphabet is in a link in the description below, and you print it out and put it right next to your equipment and gear in your shack. And again, use it. It's best practice. 9 out of 10 people will do it on the UHF, VHF side. Those who don't sometimes just get lazy. Also, write down the call sign and the name of the net controller. So because that's the main person you're going to engage and talk with. You're not necessarily talking with the other people who are on the net. You're engaging through the net controller. So right in the beginning, make sure you got down their call sign and their name. Now that you know this, time to get the gears moving. So second time around, go ahead and jump in. The net's going to begin. Write down the net controller and info, and then wait for visitors to be called because you're not a member. And just wait for check-in. There's different check-ins. It could be visitors first, members second, or it could be members first, visitors second. It depends. Now, don't make the mistake I did. And I'm telling you, I made so many mistakes. That's why I do these videos, because I don't want you to look stupid like I did. What they're going to do is when they call in, they're going to use this. They're going to say, okay, the suffix from Alpha through Golf, or it could be Alpha through Mike, and November through Zulu. They'll break it up, but they don't have everyone go at once. They break it into sections for people to call in to do check-ins. Well, the suffix is the letter following the number, and I didn't know that. So again, I look stupid. You're going to look smart. And again, they could break it up like this. They could actually go Hotel through November, Oscar through Zulu. But just listen and know what you need to focus on. If that's your call sign, you're listening for when T or Tango fits in, which would be the last group. So second time around, you're going to be able to do the rag chew, participate in it. So they're basically asking you, how are you doing? What do you want to talk about? Or they can actually give you a question on top of that. So typically what most people talk about is what they're doing in ham radio, what they're interested, their hobbies, work, their health, and a lot of nothing. So, didn't say much. I was out on the back porch and did nothing. So they just want to talk. They want to listen. But a rag chew is something that you have the opportunity to speak to these people a little bit about you and what's important to you. Visitors, newbies, sometimes we'll ask them to go first. Otherwise, you may have to go later. It doesn't matter. If you missed your call during those segments, they always do final calls and they do other calls all the time. So check-ins are always happening through the whole process. So don't feel like if you missed it for some reason that you can't do it. Just keep waiting for the next call to be requested. So when your suffix is called, now it's time to be able to get called in. Here's how you do a call in. So they're going to say, okay, Oscar through Zulu, and your suffix is T. It's your time. You're going to hit the push to talk. You're going to pause. Now speak. Take a breath. Talk. Because if you hit the push to talk and talk at the same time, it doesn't work. The first couple words are going to get garbled or not even heard. So to look like a pro, what you need to do, hit the push to talk, take a breath, breathe in, and then start talking. So you're going to say, the net operator's call sign, KN4 RFT, could be, that's not everyone's call sign. That happens to be the one for the Franklin Amateur Radio Club's net meeting. But here's Ben's call sign. You're going to call it out. You're going to release the push to talk, and you're going to wait because they call it doubling. You don't know if someone else is talking at the same time you are. That's the way ham radio works. So if you hear someone else talking, back off, let them get done, and then when they're done, you try it over again. But if you let go, wait for 1 to 2 seconds, don't hear anybody talking, now pick it back up, hit the push to talk and say, this is Kilo Whiskey 3, Kilo Whiskey, MJ from Wake Forest, checking in Ben. And again, release the push to talk at that point. Now you wait, because there are going to be a series of other people who are also checking in. Once that group is done, like Alpha through Golf is done, they're going to go back and repeat all of those who have checked in through Alpha through Golf. If anyone they couldn't hear because of a bad signal, they're going to ask that person to call back in. Or if you don't hear your name called, next call in, go ahead and call in again. Could be equipment problem, it could be a weather problem, it could be a lot of different things, but if they acknowledge you, you're good. So others going to follow, wait to see if they've been heard, and you're ready to go. Now, I always tell people, do not give up if you can't get into some of these call-ins, because if some of the nets that are larger, it's a lot of people seems to be talking over you or in front of you. Just wait for when there is a pause, and then go ahead and the next round of check-ins, jump in. The easiest way to get Mike Fright off your back on these rag chews is write down what you're going to say. Okay? Here's a sample script. You don't have to use this, but just use the process of how I do it. You need to always acknowledge the net controller's call sign right off the bat. Don't have to do it phonetically. Okay? Net controller, you don't have to do phonetically. Yours, a lot of times you do. In the beginning, if you're new, do it phonetically. After the third or fourth time, you can just don't have to do it. So it can just be, KW3, KW. But for the first time, it may sound like this. KN4, RFT. This is Kilo Whiskey 3, Kilo Whiskey. MJ from Wake Forest. This is my first call on the ham radio, and I recently passed my technician's test. I'm really looking forward to growing my skills with you all. I'm still learning and know that many of you guys are seasoned pros. If anyone could help me improve and shorten the learning curve, I would be most grateful. I'm open to suggestions and advice you may have. Oh, by the way, how is my signal coming in? Again, thank you for allowing me to join your weekly net. This is KW3, KW, back to net controller. Now, I don't have to do it like this, but the key parts are write it down, let them know up front that you're new at this, acknowledge in the very beginning the net controller's call sign, and sign off with yours and say back to net controller. Simple as that. So what's the proper etiquette when it comes to all of this? If speaking for more than 60 seconds, some will say 90 seconds, but more or less 60 seconds, and you have more to say break. Let go of the push to talk, take a breath, pick it back up, take a breath, and start again. You can keep talking. But don't talk for 90 seconds or 2 minutes and going on. You break it up once you hit about that 60-second mark. 'Cause typically, a lot of the equipment, I think if you talk more than 3 minutes, is going to cut you off anyhow. So these nets are pretty short, so keep it to 60 to 90 seconds. If you go 90 seconds, hit the break. Always close with, and the best practice is your call sign back to net controller. Simple, done. You'll hear others do their own call sign, the net controller's call sign, and they're done. Again, remember, hit the push to talk before speaking. That's really important. Be polite. Don't ramble like I do when I do these videos. Use the NATO phonetic alphabet. Don't get lazy and sloppy. Sound like a pro. And again, best practice. Sign off using the proper protocols, because sometimes the net controller will actually come back and tell you to sign off. So instead of looking stupid, now you're going to do it right the first time. Let's say that you don't want to do a net. You want to just go out and you get your radio and you just want to make a call with somebody out there today. Well, there's multiple approaches. Let's start with the first one. And I call it listening to make a contact. So you want to listen to a repeater that has a lot of activity. And you're waiting to hear someone say mobile, listening, monitoring, or CQ more with simplex, but they may say CQ also. If you hear these buzzwords, they're basically what they're saying is, hey, is there anyone out there wanting to have a conversation with me? I'm open. So you reply with their call sign, and you say your call sign, and do you copy? At that point, conversation can go on. When you're done, you close with your call sign and say clear. Clear means you're done talking. The repeater is open for the next person to use. Simple as that. Now, let's say you're doing calling out to talk to somebody. What you want to do is first listen to make sure no one is using that frequency, whether it's a local repeater or simplex. Wait 60 seconds, no conversations. It's open. So on the repeater, you're going to say your call sign and phonetically, listening or monitoring. Next, you're going to say, you can also say CQ, doesn't matter, but you're going to hear CQ more on the simplex. Again, your call sign, calling CQ. phonetically. Now, you're going to wait 15 to 30 seconds in between each call. And if you don't hear anybody, because they may be trying to write down your call sign, getting to their equipment ready to talk, so you don't want to cut them off, give them a little time to get their equipment up because they weren't expecting a call. And if after that time, after like 15 to 25, 30 seconds, rinse and repeat, do it over again. And they're probably waiting for the call to happen a second or third time. You may have to do this 9 to 12 times, but you'll find somebody, almost guaranteed. Someone is going to pick up. Now, replying to your request, you're going to say their call sign. So if it's KO4PYT, this is KW3KW3. Thanks for picking up the call request. My name is MJ, and I'm in my city, Wake Forest area. You can say something like, how is my signal? And that's important because you want to know, are you having a good connection with the person? And if they saying they're having a hard time with your signal, then you know to do a couple things. Maybe you need to move closer to a window. If you're trying to do this inside, maybe you need to turn up the power. Maybe you need to check the direction that you're facing. So there's a lot of things that you want to do, but signal strength is important. And it may not be you. It may be the person on the other end that's too far from the receiver, and they're barely making a connection. So it's a great way to not only practice and to find out what's working and what's not working with those repeaters in your area. Again, phonetically up there. Now, if you can't understand their call sign, ask it again. It's normal. A lot of people just get sloppy with their call sign because they're used to saying it for so many times. So ask it again and just tell them to say it slowly. It just as you should do yours slowly. And always close out your with your call sign and say clear, as I mentioned earlier. Now, a sneaky way to make a call, and especially in the beginning, if you don't want to do any of this, this is a great one, is test your equipment. Make a call testing your equipment. So, and this goes on all the time. We all test our equipment because we don't know what the band conditions are, what's going on with the repeater, what's going on with my equipment. I put a new antenna on, so trust me, this goes on all the time. So all you have to do is listen to make sure no one is using that frequency. Like we said, 60 seconds. Give your call sign phonetically and say testing or testing equipment. Perfect. All you have to do is wait 15 seconds to 20 seconds, repeat and rinse, do it again 9 to 10 times. Someone's going to pick it up. And you give their call sign when they acknowledge you. You give them your call sign and say, thanks for picking it up. My name is MJ, and I'm in the Wake Forest area. How's my signal? Or how do you copy me? Listen, this is a very simple, easy way. You don't have to get into a deep conversation. You can if you want, but it's a great way to start out to make your first few calls and at the same time test your equipment. Let's talk about tips and tricks for success. Well, when's the best time to try to get a hold of most people? The best time is drive time. That's when a lot of people are going to work or coming back from work. So you're talking anywhere from 6:30, 7 in the morning till 8, 8:30, 9 o'clock. You'll find a lot of people starts to wane after 8:30, and it picks up about 3:30, about 3:30 in the afternoon till about 6. There's a lot of people who are on ham radio, and they put it in their car for one reason, and that's to talk to people. So now you got all these people coming home from work or going to work with a mobile unit, and they want to talk on it. So great time to reach people. You can also do mid-afternoons. You're going to find a lot of retired people that are monitoring what's going on their local repeaters that are around them. Perfect time. Evenings are typically nets, so it's a little bit more difficult to do it, but you can talk in the evenings because people are home. Maybe they have it on while they're doing something at their computer. So evenings are not a bad time, provided that you're not interrupting a net. Find active repeaters. Some repeaters have more traffic than others, and this is important to know because you can be on a dead repeater where hardly anyone uses it, and you're going, my gosh, no one's picking up, or I can't hear anybody. Trust me, there's a lot of those, and there's the few that are out there that a lot of people use all the time. Learn and find out what repeaters are active in your area. Now, most nets start around 7 to 9 o'clock at night, and so right before the net, test your equipment. So 6:55, get on, you're all set to go. Again, do like I had mentioned, your call sign, testing equipment. Wait a couple times, do it. I guarantee you, because people are getting ready to get on, someone's going to contact you. Don't have to have a deep conversation, but you just made your first call, and you made it easily, and the person was expecting to be able to give you a response, and you tested your equipment. You can also just use the scan function on your HT. I do that if I want to hear what's activities going on the different repeaters in my area. And this is why it's important to make sure you get the right radio and you know how to program it correctly, because the scan function is important if you want to use your ham radio often. Also, set up a call time with new friends you've made in your club. I do this often with 2 or 3 other people. We test our equipment. We work each other, whether it be we're testing a new antenna. We're trying to explore how we can do HF, for example, in a local area, doing digital. I mean, I'm always working with a few people that I know to be able to test, practice, and do it. So develop a network of friends that you can use to get better in ham radio. And I've mentioned, practice, practice, practice is what you need. The more you do it, the more comfortable you become, and the better at it you are. So just a quick summary of the things we've discussed in this video to help you make your first call. Recognize the fact that mic fright is real. And it can be overcome if you know what to expect and how to do it. That's what this video is, to teach you how to do it and what to expect. You're going to make mistakes. Accept it now. Get over it and know that it's always going to be a part of anything you do in life. Failure, as I said earlier, is not trying. Others want you to succeed. If you can understand the person listening on there is looking and to say, hey, listen, that's a new person. I'm going to bend over backwards. I'm going to want them to make sure that they do this right. They're not going to critique you and make you look stupid or silly. They're, for the most part, all of the ham radio people I've ever met are patient, accepting. They like to talk to new people. They don't expect you to know everything under the sun. And they're going to probably encourage you to find a club and participate. What I did is I found the clubs in my area. I got on some of their weekly nets, and then I began to practice my skills. And believe me, I messed up a lot, as you can tell already. But another thing I did is to join their club, I actually went out on field day, which happens at the end of June every year, international competition for ham radio clubs to find out how many contacts they can make in a given weekend that they can do this. They have open arm meetings and times for let people come in to see what they're doing, to introduce them to other people. That's what they did with me, made me feel at home, and I joined the club before I left that day. You can also go to their club meetings if you want. And know that the cost of a club meeting, by the way, is anywhere from $25, $30 per year up to $100. My current club is $40 a year. Also, listen to the repeaters for someone saying mobile, monitoring, listening, or testing. Those are the cues of someone saying, hey, I'm open for a conversation. So jump in at that point, and if you're really gutsy, go ahead and initiate those yourself. So what not to do? First thing is, sound like a professional. Do not use non-NATO phonetics. And you're going to hear the one for, instead of saying kilo, they're going to say kilowatt. It's wrong. Every time I hear that, I think of KW instead of kilo, whiskey for KW, and it's just confusing. Do not talk fast like I do. Don't follow the teacher here. Talk before hitting the push to talk button. You don't want to be doing that. You want to take that breath after you hit the push to talk button. Don't want to be doing kerchunking. Kerchunking is hitting the push to talk, not saying anything and letting go. It's annoying, and people don't like that. And it's not proper to talk over existing conversations. So if you want to have a conversation with someone else is using that particular frequency, they have the right to use it. You wait till they're done. However, if you find what they're saying is interesting and you think they might be opening, you can always say something like comment and give your call sign. And I'm telling you, they're going to come back to you and say, what do you have to say? Some of my friends and I were working at a particular repeater area, and he was having trouble picking it up. And we're in this conversation, and others started hearing us, and they started jumping in and helping us, trying to figure out what the problem was. It's normal. So, but again, be polite. If the conversation is they're talking about someone's personal condition or health condition, just leave it alone. But if they're talking ham radio talk, feel free to actually try to participate and jump in. So up next video I'm going to do is vanity call sign. Since I just changed mine, I'm going to show you how you can use the FCC vanity call sign process to change it. And there's a lot of nuances to what you can do with a technician license, a general and extra license, as far as your call sign letters. I'll get into all of that stuff. I'm going to talk about the 5 key learning elements for all new hammers. If you can focus on these 5 areas, you're going to do really, really well in ham radio. And I cover a lot of this material in the existing videos, but I think I need to put it together in one at a high-level summary and then point people to the other videos. So if they do these 5 things, they can expedite their learning curve. And finally, I'm going to get into the myths of ham radio. Since I started originally getting in for prepping, it's not the only reason now, but that was the original reason I got into. And I've learned that what I thought ham radio played in the role of prepping was wrong. I'll share with you how I think ham radio does play a part in your prepping strategy. So this is MJ, new call sign KW3, KW, with ham radio made simple, asking if you could hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, throw a comment in. If I'm doing something wrong, doing something right, just let me know. Someone was kind enough to let me know that part of the video audio was off, and I redid it. So I appreciate your feedback and your help in doing this. So again, this is MJ, KW3, KW, signing out.